next track now. This track is going to be discussing about reimagining customer experience, chatbots, robotics, and AI. The moderator for this one is going to be Ativi Mehra, founder, the movie expert. And we have some applause for Ativi Mehra, founder, the movie expert. Please. Hello, how are you doing? Calling upon our panelists, Atish Baisandri, InsurTech evangelist and startup advisor. Make some noise for Atish Baisandri, please. Our next panelist this evening is going to be Ketan Pandit, Director, Marketing and Brand, Aureus Analytics. Mr. Ketan Pandit here. I now request Nitin Chugh, Country Head, Digital Banking, HDFC Bank. Please come onto the stage. That's Nitin Chugh, ladies and gentlemen. I now request Sridhar Murray, CEO and co-founder, Sense4, to please come onto the stage. Our final panelist this evening for this track is going to be Deepak Kajriwal, Director and Head of Sales and Marketing, Laziclan Technologies. Make some noise for Mr. Deepak, please. I'm now going to give it to Aditi, and like you know, you have 45 to 50 minutes with us.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Ativi, and I am so excited to be there on this panel. I personally believe that we are in such an exciting time, right? There's a large amount of critical data that is lying with organizations and available in the public domain. We've done some work and actually, working on algorithms to understand this critical data, to make some sense of it. Computing power has become really cheap now. So all these factors are actually bridging the gap and actually enabling, companies, organizations to actually use AI and machine learning tools to enhance, consumer experiences. I have a very, very, esteemed panel out here from banking, insurance, and tech providers, and I would request them to do a quick round of introduction, self-introduction.
Thanks. My name is Atish, and I am an out-and-out insurance expert, having 32 years of experience in insurance, both from operations, business, and technology. So, having worked in large corporates, so now I left the corporate world to get into the startup scene. So, I'm now developing an InsurTech community, and I advise and mentor few of the InsurTech organizations. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ketan Pandit. I'm a brand marketer with Aureus Analytics. When I'm not working on the brand, I love making ice creams at home.
My name is Nitin. I look after the digital banking function at HDFC Bank. And this includes a mix of products and channels and a few things around fintechs and innovation. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sridhar. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sense4. Sense4 is an AI platform for conversational experiences. Thank you.
I'm Deepak Kajriwal. I'm Director and Head of Sales and Marketing for Baseline. We are a born in the cloud consulting company for Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure.
Thank you so much. So, there is a lot of hype about, machine learning, AI, robotics, etc. And, one can't help but wonder, is this, just a PR game? Or, are companies really serious about this? So Atish, since you work with insurance and with companies very closely, would really like to understand from you what really is the tipping point. Are organizations even realizing the need to change consumer, enhance consumer experiences? Are they willing to leverage these tools? So where really, and what's really the level of readiness with companies in India specifically?
Yeah, so there is no, every company today is serious about customer experience. So if you really look at it, earlier it was more of internalized and more product experience basis. But now I think most companies have started looking at customer experience because it's a game of losing out. Now, if you don't look after your customers, you are gone. But are they adopting AI? I would say yes, they've started. But it's at a very early stage. They're ready to adopt and they have made some investment, but I won't say that it has gone up to an enterprise level because insurance companies, for whatever you may say, they're still working in small silos. So there is no owner for a customer. So you only have a chief marketing officer looking after the customer, but not an organization as a whole. So you have a claims department, you have an underwriting department, so you have a product marketing department. So they're still in that silo, but I think they have started and there is no going back. And the fact that, these 3 sessions we've had, and all the 3 sessions, I think AI and ML was the hot topic. So I think people are going for that, but yes, it will take a little bit of time.
So Ketan, anyone else do you have any examples of how companies are using, AI or machine learning very effectively to manage or enhance customer experience?
Right. So one of the examples that comes to mind is of a company called Lemonade, right? So Lemonade is a US-based peer-to-peer insurance company wherein a bunch of people come together, they put in some money, and one insures the other. If there's a claim, the money comes from that pool, and whatever is left at the end of the year goes back to some charity, let's say. So this kind of builds trust, right? And the insurance industry typically doesn't score very high on trustworthiness. Right? It scores behind banks, cars, the world's oldest profession, and things like that. So what Lemonade did was it automated the entire policy issuance to claims process. And from the time a person issued a claim to the time it was passed, it was about 3 seconds. So that is the power that we are looking at if leveraged right.
So we have here with us Nitin, and and don't get me wrong, but just typically finance industries, it's considered a little traditional in their approach. I should not be saying this in this forum, but HDFC have done great work in this in the entire AI and robotics space. In fact, I think HDFC in Jan last year had the first robot in a branch. So we'd really like to understand, what is HDFC specifically doing in this, what tools are you all really using, and how are your customers really responding to these changes that you all are making?
I think the first thing we're trying to do is to look at AI as a core, as a part of the core strategy, rather than trying to do something which is only altering a few things at the surface level. So yes, customer experience can be altered, no doubt about it, and we have a few examples of that already at scale. One that we're doing with Sridhar already, one of our bots. But more importantly, I think AI is now largely going to be useful for many other things which are internal as well, right? For example, portfolio management, risk management, or like in the case of insurance, underwriting, etc. Claim settlements is a very clear example in general on the financial services. But for a bank, I think there is a very clear opportunity, and that's the way we are looking at it, that AI can be a core tech stack for us. And when that happens, you can play around with it at the experience level, you can play around with it at the process level, you can also bring about a lot of changes in the way even people engage with each other within the organization also. And then you start building skills on top of that, and they will hopefully alter the experience for the customers even better in future. So it needs to be looked at not something which is I would say not something which is just nice to have. In times to come, it would be almost a must to have sort of a place in the entire tech stack within banking.
So how are your customers responding to these changes that you all are making? I mean, are they...
So I'll take the example of not the robot, because that was the one that we did and we're trying to still learn from that robot as to what customers would expect. There is an element of mobility there is an element of robotics there, and there is an element of artificial intelligence also there, but it's one of the 3. I would rather talk about the other bot that we did along with Sridhar's company, which is called Eva, which is our chatbot on our website, and the second one that we did on Facebook Messenger, which is called HDFC Bank One Chat. Both of these are operating at scale right now. Like the one on the website, Eva, I think it can handle concurrency of almost 3,000. It's demonstrated concurrency of 3,000. It's already done about 2.8 to 2.9 million interactions in the few months that it's been in action. And what we are noticing is, to your point, that customers are actually preferring to do it. So customers for the routine queries don't want to write an email, don't want to call a call center. They might as well just talk to a bot, and the bot is also enabled for voice now, so they can as well, just talk to a device or talk to their phone and get that information. And then, obviously, we have a roadmap because you start with a few simple things, and then you can get into some complex things, and then take the path of personalization also. That what you want to know and what he wants to know on a different day for a different thing, how can that be different? The response should be different. That level of hyper-personalization is the logical way that this will start evolving.
So as I understand, customers are taking this really positively. I believe this would also impact your existing human customer service request. I think there's, in terms of the load that they have, in terms of the requests that they're getting, there would be an impact there also with these initiatives that you're taking.
See, that will happen only when you're in a static market, when you're not growing, when you have a same set of customers.
Good point.
Balancing between today I was calling on the phone and tomorrow I'm talking to a bot. When you're adding customers by millions in a market like India, I think we are quite fortunate to be here. That balancing, whether it happens for older customers or for new customers, is immaterial. I don't think we are looking at it as a replacement channel. We are looking at it like an incremental new ways of interfacing with our customers.
So it's an extension of your existing channels. Great. So Sridhar, you have, with Senseforth, you have worked with a lot of companies on creating, chatbots, and and also in automating experience via chatbots. Now, again, chatbots has a lot of hype, right? And I think to a certain extent, as customers, their expectations are really high, right? There's a gold standard of a person expecting a response maybe similar to a human interface, right? Vis-a-vis a chatbot talking to you. So, do you think that it is necessary to maybe set the right expectations with your users? A, and do you think that you are using any kind of tools to make chatbots look more intelligent and maybe bridge the gap between a human interface and a chatbot?
Yeah, these are pretty important questions. So what happens is typically users, we live in times where there's an incessant barrage of digital feeds from all over the place, and then you don't really want to add to that confusion by calling up call centers or going through a document which is there on a website or any of those things. So we really want to just ask the question, get an answer instantaneously, and that's the expectation that we start with. So I think that expectation we're able to fulfill at this stage of evolution of chatbots. So like every other technology, chatbots also evolve, and then we are at the initial nascent stages of that evolution. Now, if you look at mobile phones 20 years ago, they were really dud machines, right? These small things that you couldn't do much with it. Today we have almost supercomputing power in your hands. So it's just 20 years. So now, so that means that the expectations, while the expectations of the customers at this point of time, there are two kinds. One is people expect the bot to behave like a human, which it is not at this point of time. But there are certain people who want certain kinds of work done. For example, it's called the one and done. If they just come to the website or the bot and just ask one question: what is my IFSC code? Because I need to transfer money right now. Or I lost my credit card, I want to block it. Simple. It's done, and they leave, and they have great experience. And they are the guys who give excellent reviews on our bots. Now, on the other hand, evolving into the next stage of actually holding a conversation is the next stage. I think that is where a lot of work is happening. For example, conversation comes naturally to us, but it's not so for the chatbots. But then they can learn from millions of conversations and then understand the patterns. But today, as we converse, there's a lot of turn-taking that happens. While you and I talk, there's a turn-taking that happens, and that is still troublesome for chatbots. And there's context threading. So that's also another aspect that we are working on from a technology perspective. So there are these, and then of course we've also come up with another module called the chit chat, which is making small talk. So those are, but then it is evolving. I think in the next couple of years, we're going to have much better conversing chatbots.
So Deepak, Basecamp, technology is working very, very closely with companies on cloud services, right? So do you see challenges with companies, in adopting AI and replacing, some of the human interfaces with AI and machine learning?
There are challenges. So first of all, if you see, the use cases are very important. Any company that goes for an AI or an ML or a chatbot implementation, the first step is to identify a use case. Typically, we have seen everybody wants to do AI, but they're really not sure about what use case to go for. If I'm talking about AI or ML, so should I integrate a chatbot? But if your business is not a B2C business, there is no point in implementing a chatbot. It's very important for companies to understand whether that technology is really important for them and what is the use case they should use to implement this technology. So today, in today's world, it is very easy to implement. So for example, all the leading cloud services providers like AWS provides you services which are, just pick and choose. Not like a traditional way where you have to build everything ground up. In today's world, you just have to pick up a service and you can launch a chatbot, or you can launch an AI, or even very deep learning algorithms within a time of minutes of time, right? So it's only the matter of fact that you really want to understand what is the use case I really want to implement. And if any organization is able to identify that, I think that the life really becomes easier.
To reiterate, you're saying basically companies are struggling to even identify the use case that they want to solve for, and then once they've identified the use case, it's basically much easier to use any of these tools, provided obviously they have the data, etc., and they're wanting to do it, to actually use these tools to solve for that use case. What about the rest of the panelists? Do you think, what are the challenges that you're seeing with companies to actually adopt, any of these automation tools right now? Any thoughts?
There are challenges that are faced by the organizations in adopting the. See, organizations love automation. I think we as human beings also love automation, and that's why we are humans, and that's how we evolved to this stage right now. Without automation, we would have just been some animals roaming around in Africa or something like that. So automation is in our DNA, and I think that everybody wants that. But organizations, in terms of challenges, the regular automation, they're already on that path. But here, what we're talking about is the intelligent automation. That is bringing in human-like aspects of automation, or human-like, insight identification, or pattern recognition, or even empathy. These are the things that are quite challenging right now. But other kinds of automation, there's no challenges. Now, but this kind of automation, I think, as I said, it's in the nascent stage, and it will only evolve. I think we're gonna see much better tech, a lot more empathetic towards humans.
Okay. So it's more.
Just to add to that, I think people are right now trying to solve very simple problems. And that happens in any technology adoption. So this is not something very new. So you will experiment, then you will, see the results, and then you will go forward. But only trouble is today that the insurtech or the technology companies and either the banks or insurance companies are not having the conversation very earlier on. So if you really look at it, he has to have a lot of data before he can actually suggest a solution. And that's where the problem is. So there is no insurance company or banks who have opened up, not plenty of them, I'm sure HDFC would have done it, but they don't have a sandbox, which they open up to the technology companies for them to experiment, and do that. So that is where the issue is. But having said that, there are a lot of companies have already, in Western world it has already started, and I think sure it will start here too.
That's a really interesting point. So what you're saying is that companies also don't have the critical mass of data that they can use to leverage AI tools. right?
Not just, they have the data, but I think they've not realized it.
Data needs to be of a certain hygiene.
Yeah.
Before you start making sense of it. Now everybody is going on, professing that data is new oil, but finally, not everybody can refine that oil.
Yeah.
Even I can't be sitting and refining oil. You need a specialist to be able to do that. So one is the skills. So if you don't have the skills, you partner with people, right? More importantly, there has to be data which can be made sense of, especially if it's not, let's say, conversational, it's, let's say, something to do with a process. The process will have to write intelligently based on the data feeds.
Yeah.
If the data is not of good hygiene, then it will give you garbled output. And that garbled output is going to lead you in a different direction altogether. And more importantly, I think, while I agree with the use case based approach, but use cases is good if you are trying to do as a set of things that you are experimenting. But when you're trying to do things at scale, then the use cases have to either be run at scale or they have to be part of your core stack. Otherwise, then one day we also realized this at some point in time with something else altogether, that we were running like half a dozen use cases. But then you get let's say if you got half a dozen chatbots for different use cases. Now do you get a master bot on top of those 6 bots to control and command them, and then create a organizational hierarchy for bots itself, one controlling how to move people? Obviously not. So those things, when they have to be run at scale, they need to come in at a stack level. And when they have to come in at a stack level, that is where cloud services and a lot of other things obviously start making sense. Because then you have clarity that fine, I have the data, I have the tech infrastructure, and beyond just the use cases, I want to use it for some of my core business processes.
Core challenges. Great. And that was very well put. Thanks, Nitin. So if I want to ask you that, looking at, how do you think banking is actually going to leverage AI in the next maybe 5 to 10 years from now? And do you think that there are some gaps that are still there, which you feel that you need service providers or technology partners that still need to be filled for the banking sector?
We had a view on AI 5 years ago, so it's very hard to have a view on AI 5 years from now. In 10 years, so it's out of question. You can't have a view. But I think what is certainly going to happen is that most people will realize that if they are going to be dealing with data, and if they are going to be dealing at a level where they do want to promise a superior customer experience, which is beyond just the brand promise, and it is the experience of the journey, experience of the moment, it will have to be very intelligently constructed. That intelligence can only come through artificial intelligence, backed with machine learning and deep learning and the self-learning mechanism. So what is likely to happen is that all the algorithmic progress that we've seen, in addition to the tech, advancements that we're seeing in this domain, those are more likely to bring about more sophisticated and more easily deployable use cases or logics, where people would be at will be able to deploy a bot, almost with, let's say, a week of effort or maybe lesser than that, and say that, okay, this is what I configure, and here's my little bot who will do the same for me, and then finish it and self-destruct itself after 7 days.
Okay. So yeah, 5 years may be too long, but you're assuming that there's a lot of, you would hope that there's more of a self-serving platform which will allow you to facilitate many of these, use cases, for lack of a better word, or many of these challenges, yourself, right?
We're dealing with a bunch of people today. There's a recent report by Accenture on this subject, and a lot of other people also, which says that the millennials are preferring to self-serve.
Yeah.
Right? That's the assumption. Now what happens if the next generation doesn't prefer to self-serve? We don't know that.
Great. Also we are seeing a lot of adoption of AI, machine learning, self-learning being primarily in high-tech industries, right? Or, in banking, financial services. Are there any examples of how this is really impacting, a consumer's daily life? Is there any examples that you can think of which you can share with the audience?
Sure. Netflix is one of the biggest examples, right? So rather than trudging through a catalog of what programs are available, Netflix recommends what I can watch based on what I've already watched. That kind of saves a lot of time for me, and their predictions more often than not are pretty close to what I like, right? Spotify is another example. They have a fantastic music recommendation engine, Savan in India. These are absolutely B2C, everyday usage apps, right? And like you said, millennials, they're a different breed altogether. Yeah. We don't like to be told explicitly what we should be doing, but yeah, we like to nudges and suggestions at the right time.
Yeah, all those, unknowingly we know that there's an auto suggest happening when we are kind of purchasing anything, or auto suggest in terms of music. I mean, it's there all around, it's like omnipresent, but we just don't know there's so much learning that's happening behind there for a normal consumer, right?
Yeah, but I mean, let us come back to insurtech and fintech. But there is a there's a lot of things happening there too. If you look at it, this telematic-based auto insurance. So initially, it all started on saving cost by just looking at the number of miles you drive. But now there is a whole new change in that, and now the AI with AI and machine learning, now they have started, controlling the behavior or driving behavior of a customer. So the moment you are driving, in fact, a bot starts telling you, whether you are driving safe or not, or tells you, and it has become so contextual that now people have started offering Starbucks discounts. So if I have driven very well, there is a $5 off as soon as they see a Starbucks, and they can offer. So people are thinking about it, and there are a lot of interesting stuff happening out there. So I think the insurance industry or finance, insurance companies, they look at the behavior because we want to prevent the losses from happening. And that is where I think the AI and machine learning is really, really helping. And that's where I think most of the insurance companies are looking at.
So specifically, we've given a lot of examples, which are not based in India, right? We've spoken of Lemonade, we've spoken of Netflix. Are there any examples of Indian-based companies in banking or insurance that you feel this is what they've done, this is something which is path-breaking?
I think Sridhar will talk more about it because, but I can back it up after that.
I could take the example of HDFC with its permission. I think it's a phenomenal amount of work that has happened there. Eva, the chatbot, it's become a sort of a brand by itself. So there's a huge amount of press that happened around it. The national press called it India's smartest chatbot. In the last 9 months or so, it has completed almost 6 million conversations. That's a phenomenal scale, right?
Yeah.
And no other chatbot has done that kind of conversational, handling of people's queries. So that's one thing. And then it started acquiring new skills like voice and a whole lot of other things around that. So I think at one point of time, probably HDFC could just run the bank with Eva.
So the concurrency, like I said,
It's quite possible, yeah.
it can handle 3,000 people at the same time.
That's scale.
So it's like, before I forget, I'm allowed to name the startup which is here, right? Because I don't want to be sounded as a brand manager.
I'm sure you
But yes, but I saw in the morning a web aggregator called RV, and it's one of the startups out here, and they've done a very amazing job. It's actually a chat-enabled broking firm. It's not broking actually because it's a web aggregator is in between an agent and a broker. So they are doing that, and they've done a fantastic job of that. So it's happening.
Also, just to add some more points there, not just in banking, but in a whole lot of sectors in India, healthcare, education, retail, there is a lot of AI work happening, a lot of conversational interfaces coming in there, and I think India is far ahead of some of the most advanced nations today.
Yeah, just to add, right now we're working with a couple of large NBFCs and the kind of digital products that are getting built on the back of AI and ML. So traditionally, if you see, again, the idea was to build a product, then have analytics on top of it. But now the way the products are built is completely changed. So while building the product itself, we will have the components of AI, ML, chatbots built in right from day one. So the NBFCs that we work with, including the Bajaj Finserv of the world or Aditya Birla Finance, the products that they're launching today, for example, the personal loan products that they have, talking about right from your lead generation to disbursement within less than 30 minutes. So this cannot happen if you have a very strong AI piece or the ML piece on the background that does your credit scoring, your credit checks, your social scoring. All of this is done in real time. right? And that is how they are able to pay out such high loans in like matter of minutes. So not only the consumer but also the B2B businesses are getting very smart in terms of disbursements or in terms of giving the loans out.
That's great to hear. So basically, the speed to market has actually become, it's enhanced very largely because you're building in the right set of tools, analytics, etc. in place, and then building for the experiences. So I've always wondered, like Sridhar, you worked a lot with chatbots, but it is a kind of a dichotomy, right? Because at one end, companies want that personalization, right? As we Indians, we like to see a face, we like to interact, and then on the other hand, companies are saying we want scale, and we want replacement of a human interface. So how is it? That's a big challenge to basically solve for, right? And it's like a a double-edged sword, so to say. So how are you actually solving for this typical requirement or request that comes in?
It's a very important question. But as Nitin was saying, millennials don't want to talk to people, right? So there is a vast majority of people don't want to deal with people when they have simple issues. For example, travel agents. Do you want to deal with travel agents when you want to book your airline tickets? No. Or do you want to actually stand in the line for check-in at the airports? No. You want to do that check-in. You want to actually book your all that. So there are a lot of things that we don't want intermediation or external person to talk to. But there would be higher order stuff. That's when we really want to talk.
Yeah.
You're actually flying from Detroit to travel to, let's say, Dallas and then San Francisco, and then you want to completely change this thing, and then there's some flights you missed because of weather, a lot of things. In that complex situation, you might want to talk to a person and then get it quickly resolved because the complexity is better understood by a person. Right? That's when the personal touch should come in. And that's a good thing because we are as humans good at critical thinking. We're good at empathy. We're good at a lot of these things. So we should use those instead of actually focusing on simply answering queries saying, what's my IFSC code or I want to block my credit card. So those things are better done by technology. Yeah. Right? So that's important.
So to a certain extent, what you're saying is, sorry, you want to add something?
No, actually it's the other way around, So in time, bots will have a higher degree of being able to personalize.
Versus to personalize.
Personalize, because you have the ability to make them more and more intelligent and contextual. If they are able to pick up signals and information on the go, their ability to personalize, depending on the amount of machine learning that goes into it, will be far superior than human beings. So let's say somebody has to come and talk to me in the context of banking. I will have to dig information before I can personalize that conversation.
Yeah.
But a bot might be able to do that much faster. It might even be able to preempt, like we've seen in the case of our other bot, which we have on Facebook Messenger. You pay a bill once for that bot, it remembers it forever, and it reminds you the next month that it is your bill due. Right? Now that kind of a thing, maybe a human being can do, but then you have to set a reminder somewhere to remind yourself, to remind the customer.
Yeah, great.
So, in terms of expecting a personalized human touch, for example, one of the, sometimes I feel a vast majority of India's youth is employed by the BPO industry. I really don't know what will happen to this country. Because, instead of actually doing more creative work and more critical work, more higher order stuff, they are being employed to just answer regular, repetitive, mundane questions from the customers. So that's the cause of concern. Now, one of our, just wrap it up, one of our examples, just share this personal data, in one of the companies that we're working with, there is a large call center and with live human agents chatting with customers. And then we analyzed the logs and figured out that 50% of the questions are the same, which is, where is my order? So it's basically order tracking. It's in a retail scenario. It's order tracking. That means 500 people or 1,000 on a daily basis are addressing the same query of where is my order or when will I get my package? I placed an order, I have not got it. Same thing, right? Yeah. So that 50% is meaningless to actually personalize or bring in a human description.
So you put it very well. So in effect, you're saying that a lot of the information to enhance consumer experiences can be automated, and whenever it requires some form of empathy, etc., it's basically handed over from bot to a human interface. So that in fact brings me to another question, which lots of people are kind of worried about, that job losses are at the range of pitted at 45 to 50%. So I would love to hear your point of view, the entire, the panelists. Do you think AI, machine learning is actually going to augment the current jobs, or is going to replace the current jobs, especially in a scenario, especially in India?
Sorry, it's my favorite topic. It's very close to my heart. I think all kinds of automation actually creates more jobs than it gets. Right? Look at the in 1800s, when the first power loom was invented, all the weavers went into sort of a huge hue and cry and burned down the mills, right? The initial ones. So they were called Luddites. Now, but later, the fear was that the weavers would lose their jobs. But later, the entire textile industry created so many jobs, you can't even imagine. The weavers would have never created so many jobs, right? Similarly with any automation. So automation, but in our experience so far, we've not seen a single job being taken away. In fact, they are redeployed sometimes to do better stuff instead of actually addressing the same order status query. They are better utilized in some other thing. So I think there is a need for relooking at the education system and reskilling our workforce. But I think the fears of actually losing jobs and leading to unemployment are overhyped.
Add on to this point, right? So, if you see statistics, for example, in India, almost 40 to 50% of jobs are being given by the government, right? And if I take rest 40 to 50%, which is a big chunk of it is with IT, ITS, and BPO. Now, if you really go into the IT and ITS part of it, there is a clear need of reskilling, and that is where I feel that there could be a job loss, wherein if anybody is not reskilling themselves, for example, if they are on Java and they don't learn an ML, then there might be a challenge because you don't require so many Java developers now, right? But at the same time, when it comes to businesses, it is easier for any company to redeploy them to do better things, as was mentioned. So it really depends on the scenario where you're working currently and how you really want to change the working way or the change your working style.
So it's about reskilling yourself to a large extent.
Yeah, I think that's where the insurance companies have already started. Because if you really look at it from a distribution perspective, agents are a dying force. Okay, so one of that reason is that, that's the reason one of the things that insurance penetration in India has never gone beyond 3%. There are 700 million people, and we are only 3% of that we are covering. So there is a huge requirement. So now whether this gap is filled by humans or whether this gap is filled by AI-enabled chatbot, that's going to. I don't think so. The jobs are going to be lost. I think right now the technology is going to fill those jobs which are required. That is very important.
So there's a logical journey for most technologies, most, not all. You start with assistive, you move to augmentative, and then you move to autonomous, right? Now, it's very hard to believe that everything will move to autonomous, then we don't need anything. This panel discussion as well could have been, a virtual panel discussion. This whole conference would have been a virtual conference, right? But obviously, it's never going to be like that. So some things will stop at just being assistive, some things will stop at being augmentative, and some things will go the whole autonomous way. Just the way autonomous vehicles are certainly going to come. Whether they're going to be relevant to everybody, every single person is going to be driving only or not driving or sitting in an autonomous vehicle, we don't know. But technology is going to be there. So will it reconfigure the automobile industry? Yes. And anybody who's not thinking about autonomous vehicles or electric vehicles even before that is obviously going to be in trouble. So it's the same thing. I don't think there is any risk or unnecessary threat perception that jobs will go. New kinds of jobs will get created. Redeployment will happen. Reskilling will happen. For which, just as we are open-minded to technology, we have to be open-minded to skills also.
And just to wrap up, artificial intelligence has been around since 1965. How many jobs have been lost since then or created is for everybody to see.
Very true. Good, that's good to hear. I think the positive note by all the panelists. I've gained a lot from this panel discussion. Some of the key takeaways for me in terms of all the work that's being done on chatbots with in terms of chit chat, etc., and actually creating more intelligent experiences for the chatbots. A lot of it at the level where standard questions and standard answers are being requested is something that we have solved for very largely. A lot of work being done at the banking sector, and Nitin has shared with us some of the key initiatives that are going to be there with HDFC. Job losses is not something that we need to be bothered about. It's more of augmenting your skill sets and replacing some of your skills that are there. On this note, it was really good to have you all, and we are kind of open for any kind of questions that the audience has.
Okay, I think that's a good question. So currently, if you ask me, we are working on a lot of languages. One is, of course, Arabic is a language that we're working on, and also Hindi is a language that we're working on to add to the capabilities of linguistic skills of our chatbots. In our roadmap in the next 1 year, we want to add at least 4 languages. So with Arabic and Hindi being the first, and then there are contenders in the table. So there is a lot of discussion going on inside the office. So we have to figure the next 2 winners and then put them on.
Any more questions from the audience? Great, then I think I've really had a good time on this panel, and thank you so much for being here.